Jarasandha, the father-in-law of Kamsa, strictly followed the Vedic rituals, thus worshipping Lord Vishnu. Please repeat. Formerly kings like Jarasandha. The father-in-law of Kamsa strictly followed the Vedic rituals, thus worshipping Lord Vishnu. Purport. In these verses, the author of Caitanya Caritamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, is very seriously stressing the importance of worship of the Panchatattva. If one becomes a devotee of Gaurasundara or Krishna but does not give importance to the Panchatattva, Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhakta-vrinda, his activities are considered to be offences. Or in the words of Srila Rupa Goswami, Utpata, disturbances. One must therefore be ready to offer due respects to the Panchatattva before becoming a devotee of Lord Gaurasundara or of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I'll read the next verse as well, text 9. Krishna nahi mane tate daichakari mane Chaitanya na mani le taichi daichetare jane. One who does not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is certainly a demon. Similarly, anyone who does not accept Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna, the same Supreme Lord, is also to be considered a demon. Purport. Formerly there were kings like Jarasandha who strictly followed the Vedic rituals, acted as charitable, competent Kshatriyas, possessed all Kshatriya qualities, and were even obedient to the Brahminical culture, but who did not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jarasandha attacked Krishna many times, and each time, of course, he was defeated. Like Jarasandha, any man who performs Vedic rituals but does not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead must be considered an asura or demon. Similarly, one who does not accept Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna himself is also a demon. This is the conclusion of authoritative scriptures. Therefore, both so-called devotion to Gaurasundara without devotional service to Krishna and so-called Krishna Bhakti without devotional service to Gaurasundara are non-devotional activities. If one wants to be successful on the path of Krishna consciousness, he must be thoroughly conscious of the personality of Gaurasundara as well as the personality of Krishna. Knowing the personality of Gaurasundara means knowing the personalities of Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. The author of Caitanya Caritamrita, pursuant to the authority, stresses this principle for perfection in Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana Tamandasya Gananjana Sanakaya Chakshumalatam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karati Vachalam Bhangam Langate Gurim Yat Kripatam Aham Vandi Shri Gurundirim Taranam. Offer my respectful obeisances and all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Vanchakalpatarubhisham Kripasindavi Vachana Patitanam Pavanivo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. So by the mercy of all the Vaishnavas, Srila Prabhupada, previous Acharyas, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Krishna, then we can say something relevant here. So basically, these verses are pointing out that one cannot just be a devotee of Lord Chaitanya and neglect Krishna, or one cannot be a devotee of Krishna and neglect Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it's considered that if one worships Lord Chaitanya or Lord Gaurasundara but doesn't worship Lord Krishna, he's considered an atheist, a pasandi. And vice versa, if one worships Krishna but neglects the worship of Lord Chaitanya, he's also considered a pasandi, an atheist. So simultaneously we're worshipping both Lordships, Radha Krishna, Lord Caitanya and Lord Nityananda, and here we also have Krishna Balaram, Giri Govardhan. So the Lord's appearing in many divine transcendental forms, and these are specifically the pastimes of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the Caitanya Charitamrita. And it's said that Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu is the most merciful avatar of Krishna. In previous ages, all the different incarnations of Krishna, they protected the devotees and they killed the demons. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yada Yada Hi Dhammashankala Nirbhavati Bharata. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religion and a predominant rise in irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Paritrana sadhanam vinashaya chaduskritam, to protect the devotees and annihilate the miscreants and re-establish religious principles, I myself appear millennium after millennium. But when Lord Caitanya comes, he's the most munificent, magnanimous avatar of Krishna, because he freely gives love of God, pure love of God, Krishna Prem, to anyone and everyone, even though they have no qualifications. And he doesn't kill the demons, because practically in Kali Yuga 99% of the population are demoniac and engaged in sinful activities, non-devotees, no interest in the spiritual path of Krishna consciousness. But still, Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu is very merciful, and he's spreading the Sankirtan movement. And even all the non-devotees and the sinful people and the rascals and the atheists and the Mayavadis, they are wrapped up in this Sankirtan movement. So it's said that Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he broke open the storehouse of love of Godhead and inundated everyone in the land. And whether one is qualified or not qualified, everyone is qualified to receive the causeless, magnanimous mercy of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So in this way, this ISKCON movement is an extension of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement, which he inaugurated 500 years ago and spread throughout the subcontinent of India. And now, in recent times, his Senapati Bhakta, his great general, Srila Prabhupada, has come to the West in the last 50 years and spread this Krishna consciousness Sankirtan movement all around the world. So at the same time as worshipping Krishna, Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, dedicating our life to his Sankirtan movement and to his representatives like Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's disciples and associates, we're also worshipping Krishna, or Radha and Krishna, hearing the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, worshipping their divine forms, hearing the philosophy expounded in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita is the instructions spoken by Krishna, and the Srimad Bhagavatam is the instructions spoken about Krishna, about how to reawaken our eternal loving relationship for Krishna, and many pastimes of Krishna and all his different incarnations. So there's an example given here of Jarasandha, who was the father-in-law of Kamsa, and he was also an associate of Kamsa. He was considered a demoniac personality. Now here it explains that he was actually very charitable, followed the Vedic rituals. He was very competent Kshatriya, possessed all the Kshatriya qualities, and he was even obedient to the Brahminical culture. But because he did not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he was considered a demon. And therefore, if you read the Krishna book, there's the pastime where Jarasandha, he attacked Krishna in Mathura with a huge army, very powerful army. He was a very powerful Kshatriya himself, and he amassed a huge army to attack Krishna and Krishna's army. And 17, I think it was 17, was it 17 times? 17 times he attacked Krishna, and each time he was defeated, and his whole army was killed by Krishna and Krishna's army. And Jarasandha was left alone on the battlefield, and he went home like very dejected. But his associates, his demoniac associates, each time they encouraged him to again amass a huge army and attack Krishna and his army again. And every time he was defeated, one after the other. Now Jarasandha, he received this name because he was actually put together. Two halves of his body were put together by the demon Jara, right? Her name was Jara. So when he was young, maybe someone can tell the story. Maharaj, you want to tell us how? I can't remember the whole story. Anyway, he was born in two halves, and he was put together by a demon called Jara. And so Krishna, knowing this, later on, Jarasandha, he came together with Bhima, and they had a great fight which went for, was it 28 days? It was a very long time. They were very powerful Kshatriyas, and they had a fight for 28 days. And neither of the two was winning. So Krishna indicated to Bhima that the only way to defeat Jarasandha was to split him in half. So then Bhima, he split Jarasandha from head down to the toe, all the way in half, so that there was, one eye on either side, one arm, one leg, one testicle on either side, like this. So in this way, this was the only way that Bhima was able to destroy Jarasandha. So this is an example that Jarasandha, he was a strict follower of the Vedic culture, but still, because he wasn't a devotee of Lord Vishnu or Krishna, then ultimately he was defeated and destroyed by Krishna and Krishna's associates. So similarly, even in this day and age, many people, they follow many parts of the Vedic culture, the Karmakanda, Jnanakanda, portions of the Vedic literature, worshipping even the demigods for elevation to higher planets, for achieving great opulence or mystic powers. But still, if they neglect the worship of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then it's all considered a useless waste of time. As the verse in the Bhagavatam states, Srama eva hi kevalam. If one doesn't come to the goal of attaining love for Krishna, then all his works are considered a useless waste of time. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's given this Sankirtan movement, this Sankirtan process, very simple process, simply chanting, dancing and feasting. We see the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Caitanya Caritamrita, just made up of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his associates would always be chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, dancing in ecstasy and feasting on sumptuous prasadam. So Lord Srila Prabhupada has also given us this wonderful simple process to become completely purified, to become detached from material sense gratification, to reawaken our dormant knowledge and love for Krishna and for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, simply by chanting the holy names. This is the Yuga Dham. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us this Yuga Dham. Goloka Premadana Harinama Sankirtana, Ratina Jen Milo Kenataya, that this chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is directly transported from Goloka Vrindavan. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this principal process But we're so unfortunate we don't have any taste for this chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. We have no qualification in Kali Yuga, no previous spiritual understanding or training, but that is no disqualification. We've been given this very merciful, very simple process: chanting, dancing, and feasting. In previous ages, in such a yuga, people lived for up to 100,000 years, but they had to go to the forests and the Himalayan mountains and meditate for up to 60,000 years of their life. Like Valmiki, before he wrote the Ramayana, he meditated on the Lord within his heart for 60,000 years. Great penances and austerities, and just meditating, sitting in the forest, meditating on the Lord within the heart to achieve perfection. In Treta Yuga, the process was great fire sacrifice, offering huge amounts of gold and grains and ghee into huge fire sacrifices, and the perfect chanting of the mantras by the Brahminical priests. And in Dwapara Yuga, the process was huge opulent temple worship. But in Kali Yuga, because we don't have any of the qualifications for any of those processes, we've been given a very simple process: just chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, dance in ecstasy, and take prasadam to your heart's content. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's given us this process of knowledge, detachment, and awakening our pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vairagya Vijaniji Bhakti Yoga Shikshastamika Purusha Parana Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sariradari Kripam Bodhiyastam Aham Prapajain. That Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we offer our respectful obeisances under Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has taught us detachment, knowledge, vairagya, detachment, vidya, knowledge, and nija bhakti yoga, pure love for Krishna. So he's given us the whole process, simply by chanting, by studying these transcendental scriptures, by associating with devotees, by worshipping the deities, by living in these holy transcendental places like these temples, these 5 most powerful angas or limbs of devotional service, then automatically we can become detached from all the attachments of this material world, which are so many stumbling blocks on the path of Krishna consciousness. We can develop pure transcendental knowledge and ultimately attain Prema Pumata Mahan, pure love for Krishna. Reawaken that pure love for Krishna that's within the hearts of all living entities. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema, that pure love for Krishna is within the hearts of not only the humans but the animals, the insects, the birds, the demigods. And if we have a suitable process like the Aboriginals, they can bring out dormant fire in wood. You can't see that dormant fire in the wood, but if you're expert, you can rub sticks together and bring out fire. So you cannot see that dormant, pure love for God, for Krishna within the hearts of living entities. We cannot see it within ourselves. But by the authorized process, then anyone, even from the most demoniac background, anyone who's even been engaged in so many sinful activities in this life, meat eating, intoxication, gambling, illicit sex, complete forgetfulness of Krishna, can awaken that pure love for Krishna through this process of Krishna consciousness and rendering devotional service to the divine lordships and to the devotees. And the Bhagavatam also states like this, that Nastara Presho Bhadresho Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, by regular classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam, by regularly rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart becomes almost completely destroyed to nil, and loving attraction for Krishna, who is described in the Vedic literatures, whose glories are sung all through the Vedic literatures, is established as an irrevocable fact. So this process is so rare. Krishna consciousness is so rare. And it's so rare that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna appear in this world. It's stated Srila Prabhupada stated in his books that they appear once in the day of Lord Brahma. a day of Lord Brahma is 1,000 cycles of the 4 yugas put together. Can anyone give the figure of the 4 yugas put together? It's 4 billion, is it 4? Right, so very, very inconceivable long time. That's only one cycle of the 4 yugas put together. So Lord Chaitanya, Krishna, he comes in once in a day of Lord Brahma. So that's 1,000 times those cycles of the 4 yugas. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he comes also once in a day of Lord Brahma, just after Lord Krishna. So in the other 999 cycles, Krishna personally, or Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally, they do not come. Other incarnations come, but not themselves. So that means we're in Kali Yuga, even though it's a very fallen, demoniac age. The other 999 Kali Yugas, there's no Krishna, there's no Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So how fortunate are we? How are we so fortunate to receive this wonderful opportunity? And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has been here just 500 years ago, Krishna just 5,000 years ago. Srila Prabhupada just left the planet like 40 years ago. And even we still have devotees who are here directly with Srila Prabhupada 40 or 50 years ago. His Holiness Ramai Swami had much association with Srila Prabhupada over a number of years in Australia. He got so much inspiration and to push on Krishna consciousness. Maharaj travelled around the country so many times with his bus parties, spreading Krishna consciousness, putting on so many festivals, making so many devotees. So this is wonderful devotees like this who have given their lives to Srila Prabhupada. So we're so fortunate that Srila Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and even Lord Krishna were here just so very recently in the scheme of universal time. So it's the causeless mercy of the Lord and His pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada that we are able to take up Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada said, "You have no pious activity. I have created your pious activity." And one devotee said to Srila Prabhupada, I'm the most fallen. Prabhupada said, "You're not the most of anything." So we have no qualifications. But still our greatest qualification is that we're somehow or other we were able to be favourable to receiving this mercy of this Sankirtan movement inaugurated by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We've favourably taken up this process of Krishna consciousness. And like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna appearing in this world, it's so rare. Srila Prabhupada gives the example, it's like a turtle in the ocean, and there's a piece of wood floating on the top of the ocean. There's a hole in the piece of wood, and that turtle just comes up at that particular place and puts his head through that hole in the plank of wood. That's how rare it is. So we can all testify the wonderful mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Krishna, Srila Prabhupada and his representatives, how we came to Krishna consciousness ourselves. I know personally that somehow I received the Bhagavad Gita, and I remember in those days I got like this insert which said, "Send away for a free copy of the Bhagavad Gita." And the only way I can remember that I got it was that I was at the show, Royal Easter Show in Sydney with my brother and sister, and we were getting the show bags in the show pavilion. And I think somehow the devotees were at the show and they were slipping these coupons into all the show bags. Because we got one of these coupons in the show bag. So I sent away for the Bhagavad Gita. And I started reading it, introduction, and then I put it down and I went travelling around Australia, working around Australia, driving. And I didn't take the Bhagavad Gita with me. I should have taken it. And I got to Darwin and I met these guys and they were vegetarians. So they got me into the vegetarian diet, and that was a really good experience. I found it, even though I came from like a beef farm, growing cows for slaughter. somehow I was attracted by the vegetarian diet. So I got to Perth and I was working there, and then I was going to vegetarian restaurants, and then somehow I was living in the youth hostel, and there was a little card on the notice board, and it was saying, "Come to the free Hare Krishna Sunday feast, chanting and dancing, yoga and meditation." And I was travelling around. I didn't have a lot of money, so I was, getting free meals here and there sometimes. Sometimes I go to the Salvation Army, get a free meal. So I thought, oh, it sounds good, a free meal, let's check it out. So I went along and I came to the house in Perth and knocked on the door, and the devotees opened the door and they welcomed me in. They were so friendly and so kind, and they were inviting me in as if it was my own home, and sit down on this wonderful couch, and all these Prabhupada's books on the bookshelves, and the program was about to start, and the kirtan was going, and I was liking the kirtan, and there was Tridesh was there. I remember Tridesh was there. He's the only devotee who's like here who was there at that time, and I remember seeing him chanting japa like in the morning, and he was like, he's very tall, very long legs, and he was, in those days the devotees used to walk around Tulsi like flat out, wasn't it? So fast. And he was really quick and really loud. It was quite inspiring. But anyway, so the Sunday feast, the kirtan was on, that was really good, and I was enjoying the dancing, and then the lecture was started, and it was given by a devotee called Dinabandhu. He used to be called Dvijadev, now he's Dinabandhu. And I was sitting like this, and I hadn't sat like this since I was like in kindergarten, and I was getting uncomfortable. And I was looking around, there's no chairs to sit on, it's just mats on the floor. And in those days there was 3 Vyasasans. And there was one for Srila Prabhupada and one for the resident guru. And there was a spare Vyasasan for a visiting sannyasi, and there was nothing on that seat, and I thought, oh, that's a nice chair. So I started to climb up, and immediately Dinabandhu said, "What are you doing? Get down off there." So I realised I'd made a huge mistake and caused a big offence. So I was very, very much humbled. And but anyway, it was a very interesting lecture, and I was very attracted to the philosophy. And then the feast was served out, and the feast was so good. Sweet rice halava, curd sabji, pakoras, and they served us like 2 times, 3 times. We're eating so much. And then at the end I felt so much gratitude, so touched in my heart by the mercy of the devotees. I just offered, what can I do to help? And they said, here's a mop and bucket, you can mop all the floors. So I mopped all the floors, and then they said, you can take all this prasadam home. They gave me all these containers to take home. And actually the devotee Dinabandhu who gave that class, I've got a friend staying in my house at the moment, and he's got his girlfriend is Dinabandhu's daughter. So I was telling his daughter how her father chastised me when I first came to the temple like this, and she was just laughing, thought it was very funny. So anyway, I was just so attracted to Krishna consciousness, I started coming every day, every breakfast, every lunch, every dinner. And when I finally left Perth after a few weeks, then the devotees, they gave me these homemade bread rolls, like Garuda makes sometimes, and a jar of jam. But they didn't teach me how to offer my food to Krishna, so I didn't really know. So I thought, I'm not going to buy anything. I was driving 3 or 4 days across the Nullarbor. I was thinking, I'm not going to buy anything outside, I'm just going to eat these bread rolls and jam for 3 or 4 days, and that's all I ate. And I picked up 2 backpackers in Perth, and I had one tape. In those days we had the cassette tapes, and it was like Bhagavan, and he was singing beautiful bhajans, very nice tape. Maharaj might remember that tape by Bhagavan, very sweet. And I was listening to it for hours and hours on end, and these 2 backpackers, they weren't devotees, they didn't know anything about Krishna consciousness, and they said, haven't you got anything else to play? I said, okay, here's a Rolling Stones tape. And after about 5 minutes, ejected out, and I'm not going to listen to that anymore. They'd have to listen to it for like 3 or 4 days, so it was And I took them to the temples on the way to Melbourne and Adelaide, the Sunday feast. So that was my first experience of Krishna consciousness, the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and his devotees, and the wonderful mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan process, that I was very attracted. So many devotees have had similar experiences, and by giving out Krishna consciousness in these wonderful gifts, the Srila Prabhupada's books, the holy names, prasadam, many people out there will be attracted to this process and the kindness of the devotees giving out this wonderful mercy, causelessly giving out this wonderful mercy. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that Yadi Dekatari Kaha, Krishna Upadesh, wherever you go, whoever you meet, you should give this Krishna consciousness to everyone. So everyone is able, every living entity is able to benefit and take up Krishna consciousness, especially in the human form of life. But even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says even the immovable objects like the trees can be immensely benefited by the loud chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So when we're going out, when we're doing kirtan here, when we're going out in the streets doing Harinam Sankirtan, you can understand that thousands and millions of living entities are receiving benefit. And so as much as possible we should push the Sankirtan movement, especially those of you who don't have so many attachments like wife and children and so many responsibilities, so many stumbling blocks that our time is sort of maybe diverted somewhat in Grihastha life. Difficult to get out full-time preaching, but those of you who are not so entangled, especially brahmacharis, brahmacharinis, vanaprasthas, sannyasis, you have more time to just give your whole life to preaching and spreading Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement and engaging in Krishna conscious activities. We should be thinking like 24 hours a day, how can I not waste a moment in my life? How can I use every moment in Krishna's service, in hearing about Krishna and Lord Chaitanya, hearing their pastimes, imbibing their instructions, trying to engage in their service, trying to engage others in their service, trying to come to these programs, associate with devotees. So the beauty about, and other grihasthas can probably testify that even though we have so many responsibilities and so many entanglements that we have at home, we have deities in our house, we try and have kirtan, worship the deities, have prasadam. Prabhupada says in home life, if you have these four things, deity worship, prasadam, kirtan and discussion of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, then your home life is perfect and as good as like being a sannyasi. So it's possible even in household life to be fully Krishna conscious, but it is a real test. And but also we have these wonderful devices like these iPhones and these little Prabhupada jukeboxes which have all of his lectures. So even we're in household life with so many activities going on, so many children running around, then you can have these devices playing 24 hours a day. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he said once that he went to one of his disciples' house, a Grihastha, and they were previously they were having so many arguments, but then they decided, let's just play Prabhupada bhajan and Prabhupada lectures all day long. So they got one of these devices, and he said practically even for him it was too much, 24 hours a day. Prabhupada was chanting and speaking in the house. But he said that they testified after they did that in their house, there was no more arguments in the house. And the atmosphere was totally Krishna conscious. Okay, so I'll leave a bit of time for questions or any comments or corrections. Anything anyone wants to say? Get the microphone. We can just I'll just read the verse again. So, second verse I read, one who does not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality is certainly a demon. Similarly, anyone who does not accept Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna, the same Supreme Lord, is also to be considered a demon. Do we have the microphone? There it is, do you want to pass it?
Jarasandha actually was, you know,
Yeah.
Jarasandha was a Vaishnava as such. So can you speak about his wish to Vishnu at the same time being equal to Krishna?
He was a Vaishnava. And where's it stated that?
I think in the first,
Here. It doesn't state that he's a Vaishnava. Prabhupada just states that
translation.
he's strict. Yeah, okay. Translation. Okay, the first translation says, formerly kings like Jarasandha, the father-in-law of Kamsa, strictly follow the Vedic rituals. Right, thus worshipping Lord Vishnu. Okay. Then it says, one who does not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of God is certainly a demon. Similarly, anyone who does not accept Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna, the same Supreme Lord, is also to be considered a demon. Then Prabhupada says, formerly there were kings like Jarasandha who strictly follow the Vedic rituals, acted as charitable, competent Kshatriyas, possessed all Kshatriya qualities, were even obedient to the Brahminical culture, but who did not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it seems a little, maybe someone, Maharaj or someone else can point it out, but it seems a little contradictory. On the one hand, it says in the verse that he was thus worshipping Lord Vishnu, but then in Prabhupada's purport, the next purport, Prabhupada says he did not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though he was obedient to the Brahminical culture. Maharaj, would you like to answer?
Officially he was, officially he was worshipping and performing the Vedic rituals, and some of them were worshipping Vishnu. So officially he was following all that. But when it came time to actually sort of surrender it to Vishnu, and especially Lord Krishna, that he was an immigrant. Externally one can be following everything, but internally within they're inimical, and that's why he's been classified asura. He was especially angry with Krishna because Krishna killed Kamsa, and Kamsa had married Hastian and Prakti, the two daughters of Jarasandha. So that now they were widows. So he was very angry and was always antagonistic to Krishna. So here's someone that externally, officially performs all the rituals and worshipping the devas and worshipping Vishnu, worshipping all together, but just an official way, not actually within the heart accepting. So in that sense, I don't think you could classify him as a really a Vaishnava, one who has surrendered to Lord Vishnu or Krishna. So, as mentioned there, he did the Vedic rituals, so some of them would have included worshipping Lord Vishnu. So, Krishna Kirtan point out he's a Vaishnava. I don't think he could be categorized like that. Otherwise, why do we try to kill Krishna so many times, 70 times, with big huge armies? So I don't think, we can put him in the category, he's a Vaishnava.
That's a very good answer. Thank you, Maharaj.
Maybe Maharaj also you might have worshipped Vishnu as people see Vishnu, Shiva and Brahma as demigods also. So you might have worshipped Vishnu in the mood of a demigod and not accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was known as worshipping Vishnu because they gave good result in worshipping the Brahmins. That's how Bhima got to have the fight with. They came in the guise of Brahmins and begged the fight. And
that's right.
Because he was obliged to serving the Brahmins, and he left that fight went on.
Yeah, that's great. Good answer. And just regarding that story where he was fighting with Bhima, it was that Bhima somehow got him on the ground and split him from the legs, right? From the leg, it was the legs up, wasn't it? Yeah. Just another point I wanted to touch on was that, like, how Prabhupada's stressing that we can't worship Krishna and not worship Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and simultaneously we can't worship Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and neglect Krishna. I was also going to make the point that we can't worship Krishna or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu without worshipping and getting the mercy of the pure devotee and his representatives, without, as we sing every day in the morning, Yasha Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasha Prasada Nagati Katopi, that without the mercy of Krishna one cannot get the grace of the spiritual master. Without the grace of the spiritual master one cannot make any advancement at all. So we can't independently be a devotee of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu without serving the pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada and his representatives. So just as we're here hearing the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Caitanya Caritamrita, and we hear the instruction and pastimes of Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, then we also have to hear the instructions and the pastimes of their pure devotee, their Senapati Bhakta, Srila Prabhupada. That's why we have so many wonderful books about the life of Srila Prabhupada, like the Prabhupada Adi-lila and so many other books which are constantly coming out. And these books are also as powerful as hearing the Bhagavatam and the Caitanya Caritamrita. You can, when you read the Prabhupada Adi-lila, the whole philosophy of Krishna consciousness is there. Prabhupada gives the whole philosophy through his pastimes. And so many amazing, unlimited transcendental pastimes of Srila Prabhupada and his devotees. And it's very, very, it's a nice book for especially those not only beginning in Krishna consciousness, but even devotees have been devotees for many, many years, to constantly read these wonderful transcendental pastimes of the founder of this Krishna consciousness movement, and alongside with his disciples and followers. And these pastimes, like in the Prabhupada Adi-lila, are so relishable and so attractive and so easy to absorb. Maybe difficult for many of us to understand the philosophy of Caitanya Caritamrita or Bhagavatam, but absorbing the pastimes and philosophy in the Prabhupada Adi-lila is very easy to take in. So that's one point I wanted to make, that the knowledge, devotion to Krishna, and detachment, and everything to sail on the clear path of back home, back to Godhead, is enunciated in Srila Prabhupada's instructions. Not only his pastimes, but also these purports and translations and purports of Prabhupada's divine ecstasies. So they're Prabhupada's body as well. So everything is there in Prabhupada's purports as well, in these other books. And also we're getting Prabhupada's instructions and association through his many lectures and videos, many powerful ways which we can get the mercy of the pure devotee. And without his mercy and without surrendering unto him and imbibing his instructions and mood and his dedication to Krishna, then it's not possible to understand Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna. As we hear that you can't understand Krishna directly only by the mercy of Radharani, and you can't get the mercy of Radharani without the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And you can't get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu without the mercy of Lord Nityananda, who's considered even more merciful than Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And you can't get their mercy without the mercy of the 6 Goswamis. And you can't get the mercy of the 6 Goswamis without the Parampara, all the way down to Srila Prabhupada and his modern day representatives. So any other questions, comments? Anything from those who are newly coming to the temple you want to ask, anything relating to this class or maybe not relating to the class? Okay. Anything else? Jai. Shri Caitanya Caritamrita ki jai. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Radha Govardhana ki jai.